Janice, are we ready? Janice, are you ready over there? Okay.
Before I get yelled at.
No, you're fine. Janice isn't even ready, so we're okay.
Oh, she's not ready yet?
No.
Oh, good. I'm like, he said I'm not ready.
Things are good in your city where you just had Dustin was just reelected. That was your own.
Newly elected.
Dustin?
Yeah. All right, everybody, I'd like to go ahead and call the December 5th WRCOG meeting to order. Go ahead and start with a roll call using our iPads, or, okay. So if everyone, once the vote comes up on your iPads, which it's not up there yet, there we go. If everyone could please check in on your iPads with a yay vote.
City of Hemet, District 1, District 5.
Go ahead and log in and make sure you hit yes when you're, uh-oh. I think he's better. This is just for roll call. District 5's in now. All right. Looks like we've got everybody there on the screen. All right, we're working. With that, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ike, since you're wearing the proper hat for this meeting, although you need to take it off for the pledge, please go ahead and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and with that, if I could have Ike Bootsma, Ken Young, and Michael Milheiser all join me at the dais down in front here. Down here, Ken, you're on this side. Mike, you're here. All right, we've got some proclamations for each one of you. And of course, they always want to take a photo with the proclamation. So if you guys could each grab your proclamation there, pick it up, and we'll take our photo. So I'd like to thank each one of you for your service. And of course, we have a proclamation for each one of you. We're happy to have had all of you on our board, and sorry to see all of you go. And I know one whereas that I think I have to highlight, although Ike, you failed me a little bit today, is that we mentioned your shoes, Ike. Over the years, we've always had some great, elaborate tennis shoes, although now this is not happening. So what happened?
Oh, I don't know. It just got conservative today. I didn't want to take away from the hat. There we go. There we go. It really has been an honor to sit on this board, and I really did enjoy it. I really appreciate everything, and it was actually a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Ike. And I'm sorry to see you going as well. And do you have anything you just want to say, Ken?
Well, I'd like to thank all of our community leaders across our county for the great job that they're doing in their cities and in the county government for making Riverside County such an amazing place to be in, and for supporting our public education system. It keeps getting better every year, and it really takes the work of all of us striving together for our students to have the kind of life we'd like them to have. So thank you for all of that, and thank you for having a place on WRCOG for public education to participate.
Absolutely, and thank you. And sorry to see you go, sir. So thank you for coming again. What would you like to say?
Oh, well, how much time do I have? I have to ask Chairman Mark to yield his time today, so I have a couple extra minutes. But it's been an honor to work for the Morongo Band of Mission Indians, particularly with Rick Bishop here at WRCOG to get us integrated into a mutual understanding of our side and your side, and actually becoming a full member of WRCOG. And Supervisor Ashley is a great supervisor. The only thing he doesn't do as well as Debbie Franklin, council member from Banning, is make cookies as well as she does. And she brings them to us, so I don't know if she's ever brought them to you folks, but she has to us. So but on behalf of our staff and working with the professional staff at WRCOG has been a great honor for me, and it's been a privilege to work for the tribe for 9.5 years. And I look forward to maybe continue to assist Chairman a little bit in the future. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mike. All right. Do we have any public comment cards?
I have none.
I have none up here. Anyone? Arnold? No? Okay. On to the consent calendar. Anyone on the committee would like to pull any of the consent calendar items? If not, we'll go ahead and put the vote up on the iPad here shortly. I have a motion by the City of Marietta, seconded by Banning. Everyone else could go ahead and please vote. This will be on the consent calendar.
City of Canyon Lake, thank you. City of Menifee, Morongo Band of Mission Indians, please vote. Thank you.
All right, that was too easy. The queue is working, right? Someone, okay. All right, 24-0. And on to item 7, the PACE program activities update. Michael, come on down. Uh-oh.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is Michael Wasgett, Program Manager for WRCOG. Today I'm presenting on the brief update of the HERO program, and which provides residential and commercial financing to property owners for energy-efficient water conservation and renewable energy projects. Financing is then paid back through their property taxes. I'll begin with overviews of the California HERO program. As of now, there are 361 jurisdictions participating in the program. To date, we've received over 142,000 applications. 102,500 have been approved for about $6.4 billion in available funding. In the WRCOG subregion, from January 2012 through writing, there have been over 51,000 applications submitted. 34,700 have been approved for more than 419 million in available funding throughout the subregion. To date, there have been over 38,500 projects, energy and water efficiency projects in the subregion. These equate to approximately $725 million of economic impact, 3,556 jobs created, 1.6 billion gallons of water saved, 835,000 tons of greenhouse gases reduced, and 309 gigawatt hours of energy saved in the subregion. And each of you should have a snapshot of your jurisdiction in your folder. I said it was brief, so today, I have 6 actions today. Received summary of the revised California HERO report. Conduct a public hearing to include the cities of Hillsborough and the city of Wairika as associate members, to increase the program area to include these additional jurisdictions, to hear all interested persons who may support or object, or to inquire about the program. And to number 3, to continue the public hearing for the County of Colusa unincorporated until January 9th, 2017. 4, to adopt WRCOG Resolution 3916, confirming the modification of the California Hero Program Report to expand the program area. 5, to accept the counties of Mendocino and Siskiyou unincorporated as associate members. And 6, to adopt Resolution 4016, declaring WRCOG's intention to modify the California Hero Program Report to increase the program area within which contractual assessments may be offered, and to set a public hearing for January 9th, 2017. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. I'll take any questions if there are any.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions? Oh, come on now. Nothing? All right, I'll look for a motion.
Excuse me.
I'm
we need to-
sorry. Hold on. We need to open the public hearing, and can we check and see if there's anyone on the call?
Do we have any callers online for the California Hero Program? I hear none.
Any speakers?
I have no requests.
We'll close the public hearing, and we'll go ahead and put the motion up on the iPads. I have a movement by
Yeah,
the city.
and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we had, item number 3 was to continue the public hearing for the County of Colusa till January 9th, 2017.
Right. All right, I have a motion from City of Marietta, second from City of Paris. Everyone else go ahead and please vote.
City of Calamasa, please vote. District 5, please vote.
I think you're good, Michael. You're getting off
Supervisor
easy today.
Ashley, sir.
You're good. Oh,
Done voting.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, that item moves 24-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Christopher Gray, please come on down for the Transportation Uniform Mitigation Fee update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. As Ben said, I am Chris Gray, the Director of Transportation for WRCOG. I'm here to talk about, for this particular item, some issues related to the TUMP. The first one is we have a requested amendment to our administrative plan. What happens is that WRCOG periodically reviews our administrative plan. The administrative plan for the TUMP governs how money is spent through the TUMP, for example, how reimbursements are processed, and various other administrative items. We went through a comprehensive update in June 2016. However, we do regularly receive comments and requests from jurisdictions, other agencies asking us to potentially make changes to the administrative plan. In this particular instance, we are bringing one forward for you today, but we regularly receive questions. What we do is we research them. We determine if a change in the plan is warranted. If it is, we bring it to our various committees. In this particular instance, the change we're asking you to endorse was endorsed by our Public Works Committee to get their input and comment. The issue that has come up is we've been asked to look into a potential change to our developer credit or in lieu process. Currently, the program allows a developer to construct an improvement directly and receive an offset against their TUMP obligations. So if a developer owes $5 million in TUMP, they can build a $5 million road and no TUMP payment is forthcoming. Under our current process, the developer is responsible for hiring the contractor and completing the improvements subject to the oversight of the jurisdiction. What's happened is that there have been several recent instances, one in particular that we'll talk about, in which a developer is willing to pay for 100% of the cost of the improvement directly with no TUMP funding provided. However, because of some agency issues, the developer cannot work on this project directly. The one particularly we're talking about is the Cahauco Road I-15 interchange. A private developer is conditioned to build that interchange and has offered to pay for the interchange directly up front at a cost of $75 million out of their pocket with no money coming from TUMP. However, the developer in this instance cannot hire a contractor because FHWA and Caltrans don't allow private entities to hire contractors to work on interchanges. In this particular instance, the developer will be providing 100% of the funding. The city will manage the construction. Staff determined that while we believe this is within the spirit of our plan, we wanted to make sure that there was specific language in the plan which allowed it, which is why we're bringing this item forward. The idea is that we're going to be accelerating some projects. The Cahauco Road Interchange is a project that for which no funding is currently identified in the TUMP. That project may not happen for the next 20 years. The idea being is that we do impose some conditions to make sure that there is no misuse of this process. Specifically, our concern is we don't want to create a precedent that cities will sequester TUMF money and say, well, this money I want it to go to this project, so I'm going to take a small amount of this developer funding and put it in my separate pot. The idea is this is for when there's the full funding of the project, which I have to tell you is extremely rare. We developed some language which was approved by our Public Works Committee. So some specific items, it's only for regional projects. If it's a smaller project, we would expect the developer to continue to use our process as is. They hire the contractor, the city oversees that. It requires a formal request from the jurisdiction, documentation why this process is applicable. We also require WRCOG's permission to ensure that it's consistent with the plan. And then there's an MOU that has to be executed in the jurisdiction and WRCOG. There's a provision in the language we are adding that says if the funds are not spent within 3 years, the jurisdiction can request extensions, but after a certain period of time and the extensions run out, the money has to be remitted to WRCOG. Again, this prevents a city from collecting the funds and using it for their own projects outside of the normal TUMF process. So that's our first item, and it's one of the 3 requested actions we'll be asking you to take. The second item is we're bringing forward an updated memorandum of understanding with the Riverside Transit Agency. The Riverside Transit Agency receives directly roughly 1.56% of all TUMP funds that are received. That is for transit projects. What has happened historically is RTA builds those projects just like a jurisdiction. They go out and submit invoices. We review the invoices. RTA has expressed to us, and it's been our experience, this tends to delay their projects significantly, such to the point we have several projects on hold. RTA came to us earlier this year and requested that we remit the funds directly to them. This is similar to the relationship we have with RCTC, where we provide them with their TUMP funding directly. We believe this process will allow RTA to be more efficient in delivering their projects and spend the money that they've collected more quickly, and it will result in more transit projects being built in a more expeditious fashion. The idea being that RTA, instead of on a project-by-project basis documenting their expenses, they'll provide yearly reports to WRCOG. We also have provision in the MOU that it can be terminated if there are significant issues, and if the MOU does have to be terminated because one of the parties is not performing, then we would simply revert to the current arrangement, which we have. And then the final item we're bringing forward today is an amended reimbursement agreement to provide some additional funding at the request of the City of Moreno Valley for the Nason Street SR60 interchange, such that the total amount of the reimbursement agreement will be increased by approximately $133,000 to $11,261,500. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the 3 actions is to, one, we're asking the approval of the reimbursement agreement with the City of Moreno Valley. We're asking for the revision to the administrative plan to add the process to receive credit against TUMF, and then the third action is an approval of the MOU between WRCOG and RTA. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions? City Cal Mason?
Hello, yeah. On that project you were talking about in Cajalco and the 15, you said that it was going to be because of Caltrans can't allow a private one to run the deal. They had the $75 million to pay for the whole deal and stuff. Going forward, is that going to be a big problem? And in other words, as long as they're paying prevailing wages and stuff, I don't see the problem.
It's just a matter of administrative purposes. Who writes the checks to the contractor? In this particular instance, the developer will be depositing the money directly with the city into an account, and all the construction we paid for out of that account, versus in a typical credit in lieu process, the developer just writes checks directly to the contractor. So in our mind, it's simply a matter of whose name is on the check. But from Caltrans and FHWA's perspective, it can't be a private entity's name on the checks, to put it very simply. And I'd also ask that we have Mr. Montanez from Corona, and he is also familiar with this as well. So if you had any, I would also, Mr. Chairman, if he had any questions or statements, I'd give him the opportunity to do so.
But like you say, it's rare when you get that kind of money coming for a project, and even if it wasn't in our sites for 20 years, it seems to be a major project, and we don't want to hold things up either. We don't want to be obstructionists.
That's why we're bringing this forward. Otherwise, to us, this was important enough to make the change to be very clear that our plan allows it to allow this project to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
City of Parupa Valley?
I had a question on, you mentioned the annual report from RTA, which
Correct.
I'm assuming is what RCTC probably does as well.
That's correct.
Was there any discussion about like twice a year? My only concern is a year is a long time if something isn't going quite right in order to be accountable.
Correct. There's also some requirements in there for some interim reports as well.
Oh.
So we'll be checking with them on a regular basis to make sure that they're complying. Because we don't want to get, you're right, we don't want to get to the end of the year and find out something is completely haywire.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And City of Corona?
If I can get the buttons on this side to work. The project in Corona, the property adjacent to the Calco interchange was previously purchased by RCTC for the alternative corridor and the Mid-County Parkway. So part of that was highly identified as needed to be done, and then parts of it got shelved as Mid-County Parkway got shelved on our side. So the developer needed to get that interchange done and was willing to front the money, which we were, of course, surprised as well. But hopefully this will, I assume this has gone to to the developer for approval as well.
We have been working with the developer and with the city for probably the last 9 or 10 months. The idea is that this is an agreement between the city, WRCOG, and actually RCTC as well, because RCTC will be reimbursing them for some amount. So we've been regularly communicating with the developer, but primarily it would be an agreement between the city and the developer.
Okay. But just the background, if anybody has any other questions offline, I'd be more than happy to give you the background on it.
All right, that was the last speaker I had in the queue. Unless someone has another question, we can go ahead and bring up the vote and see if someone wants to make a motion in a second on this. I have a motion by the City of San Jacinto and a second by District 5. Everyone else can please vote. I'm just glad to see that the queue system is working and you guys are actually engaging. That's good.
Mr. Chair, give me just a second to pull the water districts out of here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was working too well. All right, and that passes 22 with 1 abstention. All right, on to the next item, item C, again, Christopher, analysis of the fees and their potential impact on economic development in West Riverside County.
We wanted to provide an update briefing on our the fee study which we completed. As many of you remember, as part of the last Nexus study update, when the decision was made to hold off on completing the update, WRCOG was asked to do a comprehensive study of development fees across the region, as well as to identify what the economic impacts of development fees could be. The draft study is complete. We want to present some preliminary findings and also share with you some recent outreach that we've had. So just in terms of the study process, we had 5 major tasks, everything from identifying typical development prototypes to identifying the economic benefits of transportation. Again, we do have a draft study that's available. Staff is reviewing that. We'll be releasing that at the end of the year. I first want to just tell everyone about all the outreach that we've done. First, I'd like to thank all of you for your staff. Many of your staff spent a significant amount of time. For example, the City of Riverside, our consultant had difficulty figuring out their fee study. The City of Riverside calculated their fees for us. But in many cases, it was your city manager, your public works directors, your planning directors who was reviewing and commenting on our fees. We've been through the multiple rounds of agency reviews, committee reviews. We have spent a lot of time talking to water districts and school districts. We've met with interest groups like BIA and NAOP. We've had meetings with developers, and we have also shared elements of the study with developers. So, for example, we've done detailed economic modeling, which we have shared with developers who've attended meetings with us previously. So I want to just present the key findings and the overall findings. So the overall findings is that, first of all, there's a lot of fees which people pay. These fees are generally uniform. So, for example, there's for single-family houses throughout the region, there's a fairly narrow range of fees which are paid. Many of these fees come from different agencies. There's WRCOG fees, there's school fees, Water District, MSHCP. We have also looked at areas outside our region, San Bernardino County, the Coachella Valley, City of Beaumont, found that our fees are very similar except for the retail fee. We determined that the retail fee in our region is higher than our adjacent neighbors, and the retail fees are, portion of it is TUMP, some of it is water fees, some of it are city fees. So finding number one is, as we said, there's many different fees. There are roughly 2 to 3 dozen types of fees which are charged on development. Every city is a little bit different. Some cities, for example, charge public safety fees. Some cities charge local traffic fees. Everyone gets hit with a school fee, and then there's water, sewer, other kinds of fees as well. So here's just the average range. So for single-family house, the average fee is approximately $45,000. For industrial, it's about $4.50 a square foot. Multifamily comes in on average about $28,000. Retail is $24,000, and office is about half of that. So as I said, these are the average high low, but you can see that with the exception of outliers. For example, in the single family, most cities are in the $45,000 to $50,000 range. Retail is, again, we see most cities in the $20 to $30 range. Industrial, except for a couple of outliers, most of the industrial fees are about $6 a square foot, and we do see some variation in the office.
Chris, before you go on,
Yes.
back on that last slide, does that include the outliers, or is this excluding a few outliers?
No, this is the outliers. So.
Okay.
But what happens is that, for example, on the industrial fee, we have 2 cities that charge nearly $10 a square foot. Everyone else charges 5 or 6, roughly in the $6 to $7 range.
Gotcha.
So we also looked at what is the contribution of TUMP to these fees, and what we found is that except for the retail, where the TUMP is about 44% of the total fee, it's about 17% for office, 20% for residential, and about 30% for industrial. And so this bar shows you how those fees are distributed across the uses. So the gray bar at the bottom is TUMP, the blue is water, the green are city fees, the gray are school fees, and then the orange bar on the top are other regional fees like MSHCP and other special districts. So what we have found, as we said in the beginning, is that the average impact fees are all within the range of surrounding regions except the retail. We looked at San Bernardino County cities, Coachella Valley cities, and the city of Beaumont. We were primarily looking at cities on the border, cities that could potentially compete with jurisdictions in WRCOG. And what we have found is, so on this chart, WRCOG is the black, the city of Beaumont's the dark green, the Coachella Valley is the gray, and San Bernardino County on average is the blue. So for example, in the single-family houses, single-family housing, our fees are comparable to San Bernardino County. The one outlier, as we've said before, is retail. We find that the retail fee is significantly higher in our region, but in the office, industrial, we're very much within the range of our neighbors. We also engaged in a comprehensive effort to determine how costly fees are and what fees contribute to overall development costs, and we found that for feasible projects, projects that would actually pencil out and be built, fees are anywhere between roughly 5 to 10% of the total costs. TUMP ends up being about 1 to 4% of total costs, and what this means, so for example, on a single family, TUMP is about 1.8% of the total costs. A 10% increase in single-family TUMP results in a 0.18% increase in total development costs. And then finally, we've been looking at the economic impacts of transportation spending. If TUMP collects $3.1 billion over the next 30 years, that could be leveraged up to about $18 billion in infrastructure. This is based on historical performance, and when we looked at the TUMF money that's been spent, we have found, for example, $400 million that's been collected by TUMF and distributed to projects which are complete. On average, when you add those projects up in aggregate, they have a value of about $1 billion. So it's roughly a 2 to 3 leveraging. So if you add all this together, we're looking at substantial benefits to the countywide economy, thousands of jobs per year, which are working in transportation, and a TUMF investments, which will generate roughly about $4 to $5 billion in total economic outputs. So with Mr. Chairman, that's a receive and file. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, the City of Temecula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, I just wanted to compliment you. That was very comprehensive and very valuable information. There's a lot to chew on there, but I want to just thank you. I'm looking forward to looking at it. It's a very delicate thing with this Nexus study that we're doing, and you really you set us up to do some good, thorough research.
All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments? District 1. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just need to chime in. I do also appreciate the evaluation. I am of the opinion that we cannot fee our way into successful roads across this county, that there's simply not enough taxpayer dollars out there to be had to build the big enough roads that we need to export our workers out of this county at the rate that we're doing so today. I think that the number was 280,000 per day going through Corona on the 91. I don't know what's going out the 10, the 60, the 15, out through Temecula. I really, truly believe we have chosen a path that we cannot win in sense of trying to collect enough fee revenue to build enough freeways to send people out of this county, and instead should be looking at on our retail, office, commercial, should be looking to try and attract jobs to Riverside County, not to ship them out of Riverside County. The path that has been laid out is to ship them out of Riverside County and not to create jobs here. I just firmly believe that. I think we really should look at some sort of incentive program that allows us to compete better. You saw the numbers on the retail substantially higher than some of those around us. That will do us no good in the long run. So I really wish my fellow commissioners here would look at a different path that encourages permanent job growth, not temporary construction jobs, but permanent jobs in this county instead of permanent evacuation of workers every day. So that's my 2 cents worth, sir.
So I would, Supervisor Jeffries, just add that the data suggests that you're correct. On a daily basis, about 20% of the people, 20 to 25% of the people are leaving this county to work outside of the county. And if you compare that against our neighboring counties, it's comparable to San Bernardino, but one of the data points I'd like to offer is that at one point Orange County was in a very similar situation. 20 to 30% of their people on a daily basis were commuting to LA County primarily. Now that number's cut roughly in half because of all the job growth. So we are certainly mindful of the impacts of fees on retail growth, and we'll be bringing forward our Nexus study to this group next year, early next year. And one of the things we do want to talk about are incentives, what, if any, retail fee there will be. We're certainly mindful of that. And secondly, I also would like to let everyone know that we currently in our TUMF have a discount for offices. So the fee on an office is discounted 50%. The feedback that we've gotten is the process to qualify for the discount is fairly onerous. So I would like to suggest that we revisit that as well. But we're certainly mindful of those, and the data certainly supports your contentions.
City of Corona.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree with Supervisor Jeffries more. In fact, the admin committee has set aside some money to explore economic development and is starting a subcommittee to review that with some of the economic development officers of the cities to provide some guidance on what direction we would like to go, because I'm sure none of your citizens drive through Corona every morning. In fact, Foothill Parkway did officially open 2 hours ago. You might let any residents that, the 2 or 3 that might travel and might try to find Foothill Parkway as a shortcut, that we will have massive police presence out there to make sure everybody is properly, I would be happy if they didn't generate a single ticket as long as people do not speed. We actually had a very bad accident last night with kids out there racing, so in anticipation of the road opening. So, but I take that very seriously as well, Supervisor, is to create jobs. I think it's silly to be spending $1.5 billion to get people out of the county when we could be spending money to keep them in the county. So I agree with you, and we are working on that.
All right, I don't have anyone else in the queue. This is a receive and file. Unless anyone has any other questions, we'll move on. All right, thank you, Chris. All right, our next item is from Aaron Sassy, report from the League of California Cities.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see all of you. We've had a little bit happen since the last time I was able to give you a report, so I just want to walk you through where we stand. Obviously, we're still in our break for a little bit longer, but there has been some action. Today, there was actually a new transportation bill introduced, very similar to the previous ones. Obviously, nothing happened in the special session, so we're hoping that maybe something happens for funding next year. I guess this is a good start, but considering nothing was able to be done up to now, we'll see. We did have our League Leaders Conference in November where the leadership from the divisions, the state board, the policy committees, and the various caucuses got together. We set our strategic goals and priorities for this upcoming year. So I'll just walk you through those. It's to increase funding for critical transportation and water infrastructure, to develop realistic responses to the homeless crisis, to improve the affordability of workforce housing and secure additional funds for affordable housing, and to address public safety impacts of reduced sentencing laws, protect local priorities in the implementation of the Medical Marijuana Act, and to preserve city rights to deliver emergency medical services. So these will be where our focus is with our lobbyists. This is really where the most time will be spent this coming year. At that conference, we actually had our new executive director, Carolyn Coleman, attend. She officially starts December 17th, and I know one of her big priorities is to get out to all the various divisions, so you should all be meeting her hopefully soon. We have our new mayors and council members conference in January combined with our policy committee, so I want to encourage all of you to attend. You don't have to be new to come to that training, but if you have any new council members in your cities, please encourage them to come. It's a great time to just learn different things, city finance, manager, city official relationships, and so forth and so on, but she'll also be there for that. At the League Leaders Conference, we also awarded Governor Pete Wilson with the Past President Lifetime Achievement Award. All of our past presidents every year vote to who to give that award to, and he was our recipient this year. So he came to our conference. It was a little bit of a surprise for all of us, but it was great. Congratulations to him. A couple other items. We had our golf tournament back in October. I want to say that we actually did very well, considering it was a busy year. We came in with about $70,000, and I have to say a big thank you to the Morongo Band of Mission Indians for being our host. We always appreciate their support and couldn't do it without them. So thank you to all of you that helped, came out, supported it. I really appreciate it. Couple items. We have a vacancy on our Community Services Policy Committee for our division and the Governance, Transparency, and Labor Committee. So if any of you are interested in serving on one of those committees, please just let me know. The first meetings will be in January, like I said, during our conference. We also have some vacancies on our division executive committee. We had with the elections a few changes, so we actually had an ascension. So Paul Davis from Riverside is now our current division president. Michael Wilson will shift up to first vice president from Indio, which means we now have a vacancy in our second vice president position. So if any of you are interested in that, it is a Western spot. We are looking for people to take that position. And then we also have an alternate vacancy position for the Western cities. The executive committee will be making those appointments. It's an appointment process this time on December 19th at our meeting. So if you're interested, please let me know as soon as possible for that. One other item with the elections, we now have a 2/3 supermajority in both the Senate and the Assembly, and obviously with the governor. So a little bit less of checks and balances for us. We'll see what this ends up being, but definitely we'll need to make sure that if there are items that we are not supportive of that would likely go through, we will need to be way more vocal this next year because it will be a little bit more difficult to stop some bad policy items. So just be prepared for that. Our legislative scorecard came out recently. I know I sent it out to everybody. Just a reminder, to use this as a tool. All of our local legislators scored poorly to fairly well. Nobody did amazing, but it's always based on the bills that we were focusing on. So I would like you to use that when you talk to them, maybe say thank you for the bills that they were supportive of, and just remind them that they should be checking in with all of their cities when they are making their votes. And then January 9th is our next division meeting. The city of Wildemar is hosting us. They have never done so we're excited about that. So make sure you all come to that. With that, I hope you guys all have great holidays, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
All right. Any questions, anyone? I don't see any. Thank you, Erin.
Great, thank you.
And yes, looking forward to the event in Wildemar. All right. Our next committee report is from Gary Norquist, the Tax Chair Advisor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, briefly, we had a meeting scheduled for November 17th with the city managers, and due to their efficiency of the previous meetings, we canceled the meeting. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Very good. All right, report from committee representatives. SCAG, I don't know, Deborah, you were at a few meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, we did not have meetings for December. I think there are a couple of members that were here that went to the Economic Summit last Thursday, and it was very interesting. It was the 7th annual Economic Summit. In fact, I would say it was the most interesting of any of the ones that I've been to in the past. They had a couple of speakers that made you think about the future, and one of the things that they talked about was the unintended consequences of some of our land planning policies that we need to think about. And they also talked, these are the things that really caught my attention, about how in Northern California they imported a lot of the professionals. And when we talk about how long it may take to get people trained to do some of the jobs that we have currently available, that we need to maybe start thinking of what happened in Northern California in terms of people being imported. Then they are able to expand the businesses. And the presentation from JPL in regards to it's not necessarily just creating something new, but improving what's already there. So they had a lot, I thought, and others might want to chime in on just things to think about in the long term as we talk about economic development. And like Supervisor Jeffries, you talk about how do we create those jobs here and keep them here that are well paying so that people are going to be able to stay here and not commuting to other areas. But it tied in very well with what your comments were. And all their presentations are online so people can see. And then they had a nice book that gave us some facts about where we are as different counties in Southern California.
Very good. Anyone else want to comment on SCAG? I was also there and felt it was also a very good economic summit, and you nailed it. I mean, to see some of the unintended consequences of counties around us that where some of us have had our job growth come back, although the jobs that have come back maybe aren't as good as the ones we lost. But there's some areas that still haven't even had their job growth come back because, and what they're seeing is those areas have stopped allowing growth. So the anti-growth communities have lost out on some of the newer growth and therefore some of the newer jobs. And that's really held up their economies. So, all right. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the next report, which is actually from me. AQMD, we had a long meeting on Friday. But a good meeting. We did hire Wayne Nastry as our permanent executive director there at AQMD. So he is now our permanent director until we feel otherwise. That's just how the director seats work, right? But other than that, it was a sort of a trying meeting. I'm sure most of you know my dad couldn't make it. I will like to put it out there. He's having a very serious struggle with cancer, and it's more serious than any of us would like to know. And so your prayers and thoughts for him I appreciate, and unfortunately he couldn't be there, and we'll see how that goes out going forward. So with that, CalCog, Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We did have our quarterly meeting in November. One of the big things that CalCog is doing is making sure they represent us and that we don't lose any of our local identity, and that we participate in the process. Some of the things that they've been working on is the Regional Transportation Plan Guidelines, California State Transportation Plan Guidelines, and those things. Also, they're going to be launching a new website that's going to include blogs, newsletters, legislative advocacy tracker, and it's going to focus on highlighting the successful regional programs and telling our story, and I think that's an important thing. They mentioned WRCOG a lot with our programs, the HERO program, and with some of the other things that we're doing, but now they're going to put it on their website so that they can see it all the way across the state, because I don't think Sacramento understands what we do down here, but that might be an understatement. So those are the big things that they're working on, so thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, the report from our Executive Director, Rick Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things to mention. Many of you have attended one of the 4 scheduled streetlight tours that are occurring out in our streetlight testbed area in the city of Hemet. So again, thank you, Mayor Wright, for making an area within Hemet available for the streetlight tours. And you can see the existing street lamps and the new LED street lamps. So it's a real difference in how Western Riverside County can be illuminated depending on the number of jurisdictions that join in this effort. And you can see the lighting differences are huge from a public safety standpoint as well, because you see true colors. Then there's one more tour that's scheduled. It's this Wednesday at 6 p.m. I think that is either at capacity or nearly at capacity, but if there is a desire among jurisdictions or individuals for additional tours, we'd be happy to set those up, because I do believe the demonstration area is going to be up and running through January. So I'd be happy to do that. Lastly, wanted to mention that WRCOG was named by the Press Enterprise as one of the top workplaces for the year 2016, and so Jennifer Ward and I had the privilege of attending that event Thursday night to receive that recognition, along with the Western Municipal Water District. So we were 2 of the government entities that were recognized for that honor. So that's something we're real pleased with. So with that concludes my report.
All right. Any items for future agendas, anyone? Not seeing anyone in the queue. Any general announcements? City of Norco. Yep.
Am I on? Yes, I am. I just want to let you know that December 7th, this is our 10th year, we put on a Pearl Harbor Remembrance Ceremony. We've had as many as 1,000 people show up. I always feel like nobody's going to come because we tend not to remember that, but we do have a couple of Pearl Harbor survivors that are coming. We would have had more, but we're part of a program to send those that can travel to Pearl Harbor. We have 22 that are going. They'll be at the Arizona Memorial. So anyway, we start at 10 o'clock at our Navy base, Naval Warfare Center, Corona Division in Norco. I would get there about 9:30 because it tends to get very congested at the front. We have flyovers, we have singers, we have all kinds of things to remember those people we lost 75 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda?
Yes, I was asked by Denny Horn, the district director for Assemblywoman Melissa Melendez, to bring mention to the flyer that is put before you for the open house next Monday with the Congressman and the Assemblywoman. That will be held at Pins and Pockets at 5:30 to 7:30. We hope you all can join us.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Nope. City of Calamasa?
Yeah, I'd like to invite everybody out on December 17th for the inaugural City of Calamasa Festival of Lights Parade. We will have a nighttime parade, and we will also, it'll be so short that we're using extension cords on our vehicles. So I'd like to see you all come out there. But yeah, it's the first time, and you can see our city at night. There'll be lots of specials and such for all the different businesses. So come out and see what we're about.
Very good. City of Jurupa Valley.
I just wanted to announce and invite everyone to the Valley Patch Farmers Market, which is now up and running every Saturday in Hoopa Valley from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's at 8022 Limonite, which is the Hoopa Valley Spectrum Shopping Center where our movie theaters are. This past Saturday, because of the light winds that we had, they did have to close it that day, but that would have been the third week it was open. So they're going to try to do rain or shine, and it's a great variety of vendors. It's not too big and not too small, so we're looking forward to seeing it grow and become a community gathering place. So you're all welcome to come and experience that.
Very good. All right. I don't have anyone else in the queue. With that, we'll go into closed session. Everyone, please join us down in the front here for closed session. We'll ask everyone else to go ahead and leave the room. Thank you.